the 2021 draft this year. The ability to move his feet laterally and then recover and block. And I tell you what, he bailed out the Cavs. I thought Donovan Mitchell went too soon.
Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. It's your boy Mac. Man, I can't even do the intro right. I am so hyped after that game. Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. As I said, it's your boy Mac. Tonight was a big game, guys. It was a huge game. Game 5 of this first round series. I cannot stress how important this game was for the Cavaliers. And I hate to be so damn cliche about a first round matchup, but folks, that's just the truth. This game carried so much weight. I am not afraid to say it. You lose this game, and the series, in all likelihood, is probably over with the way that the Cavaliers have played on the road in this series. Not in a literal sense necessarily, but it didn't have the feel that if this game was lost, that they would be able to go on and win the next two after that. Ladies and gentlemen, Darius Garland played some pretty damn good basketball in this one. I saw way too many bench Darius Garland tweets and posts. These people wanted to sit you down, my guy. Thank you for shutting them the hell up. Thank you. He stepped up in a major way in the absence of Darius Garland. He wasn't the only one. We're going to talk about everybody. But we all know Chasedown has been honestly the best player in this series thus far. So to see guys step up in his absence, that's exactly what you needed to happen. And that begun with a 17-point first quarter out there. And while he would go scoreless in the second, he would round things out in the second half. By finishing with a pretty high amount of points out there tonight and making one of the plays of the game on a wraparound pass to Evan Mobley, if I'm not mistaken. Darius Garland would finish the game with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on a pretty damn efficient 9 of 16 from the field, including 3 of 5 from distance. And he only turned the ball over twice, man. You can only turn the ball over twice. There was definitely more than one key factor in this. And right off the bat, I have to address one thing here. I know I'm going to catch some slack about it, but I'm going to go ahead and say what I got to say about this. Just because Tom K's already put it out. He says, Mac, I know Niang is your boy. Maybe ask him to co-host with you the rest of the series and let this Morris thing play out. I got to admit, man. George, you're my guy. I love you, dude. But if the Cavaliers are able to win this series, which I believe they will, my original prediction was Cavs in 6. But if they're playing like this with Marcus Morris out there, sorry, man. You got to sit down. You got to ride that pond. You know I'm a huge Niang fan, but you could just tell that this game swung at times when Morris was out there. The ability to space the floor, the defense that he played. And make no mistake, Paolo Banchero was knocking down some really, really tough shots, but I liked just about everything I saw in regards to the defense that Morris was able to play on him. Tuna Sports says JB could have been played Morris. No offense to Niang, but it's been time. Yeah, I've been calling for it myself. People been giving me a lot of grief about my my love for Niang, but I mean, I gotta call a spade a spade. Niang was struggling when his shot isn't going. He offers next to nothing out there outside of being a tough guy, which clearly needed toughness on this team after last season's collapse. But man, I got to give it up to Marcus Morris. I'm not going to give him the game ball, but man, he was a X factor in this game. And dating back to my breakdown of this series, I called that one pretty obviously, and I think everybody could as well. Man. Just such a great game. And it was really, really competitive down the stretch, too. Obviously, the score paints that picture for us. But, man, to see guys step up in the absence of Jarrett Allen, that was phenomenal. And I guess we could talk about Donovan Mitchell a little bit. After scoring 14 points in that first half, he kind of looked absent, man. He looked absent in the second half until the fourth quarter. And I got to admit, man, he showed up when we needed him to. I'm not going to go into explicit detail about my thoughts on his play thus far throughout these playoffs, but I have to admit he is underwhelmed, right? He is underwhelmed. And I have to ask you guys this question. How much of Don's struggles lie in the way Jaylen Suggs and company have dealt with him versus Don just being off or still not being 100%? What do you guys think? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments. But he clearly is just not himself. I see some Magic fans in here. Good thing you guys are showing up. Yes, it was a 1-point game, but I have to add we were missing a big piece of our puzzle in Jarrett Allen, mind you. So, I mean, you got to take that into consideration. This now continues the trend of the home team winning. Nobody has lost at home just yet. So we'll have to see if that changes in game 6. But I mean, we'll see. We will see. We will definitely see. Rob says, I like when DG waved off D Mitch and gave Mobley the wraparound dime. Pause. Yeah, it was nice to see, man. Darius Garland. And I was waiting for that. Like, for people out there suggesting that Darius Garland is not capable of being clutch or making the right plays down the stretch, I got to tell you, man, he's still very, very capable. We saw that in some cases last season. We saw it in his all-star season as well. If he needs to take over, he can. But this has just been a horrific season overall for DG. So a lot of people lost faith in him. I never did. I always tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. But today he exercised some major demons out there. And that was a big time win. And seeing him have a good performance in the wake of Donovan Mitchell kind of being up and down, he really buoyed things. Again, it was a collective effort, but Darius Garland was the head of the proverbial snake tonight. And man, I gotta give so much love. You guys know I kicked off the pod with Evan Mobley's game sealing block. I mean, to me, that's the game winning play right there. The block that he had right there. That was the tipping point of this game. Well, not the tipping point rather, but the really the winner of this game, that block, because that was a wide open lane he out there if Mobley wasn't able to get the shit done right there. Tom K says Paolo is a crazy shot maker. Yeah, man, I'm looking at some of these mid-range pull-ups he's taking, some of these triples he's taken, some of these drives inside that he had. You just got to tip your cap sometimes. Sometimes you can play good defense, and sometimes better offense is just going to win out. And Paolo has been doing that all season long. He is a killer in that mid-range area. Tune in says clutch defense by Mobley. Absolutely was, man, especially down the stretch. I was really looking forward to seeing how Mobley would function in that 5 spot with this small ball lineup. I mean, today's starting lineup, let's talk about that a little bit. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland obviously fill out the 1 and the 2. You have Mack Strus at the 3. Isaac Okoro playing at the power forward position, an undersized power forward out there essentially today. And then Evan Mobley at the 5. And obviously with Jarrett Allen being out, that kind of gave way to some minutes for everybody kind of benefited. We saw a little bit of Sam Merrill. We got Marcus Morris, obviously, who we talked about a little bit. And you even got Tristan Thompson out there, right? And so JB was kind of forced to change things up today. And we know that during that huge run that we had in January, that was kind of forced. JB's hand was forced. Mr. Redpan says, would JB have mixed up the roster tonight if Jay was healthy? I think that he probably still would have sat Niang down. I think he still would have sat Niang down because we could all see what a train wreck his minutes have been this series. I think Morris still would have gotten all of his minutes. But if Jarrett didn't miss tonight's game, we probably wouldn't have seen Isaac play as many minutes. We probably wouldn't have seen Strus play as many minutes, things of that nature. But Niang not touching the floor, that was definitely, it was helpful. Chris Blum says, Mack, beat the Magic in refs. Let's go. Let's fucking go. And I got so many Magic fans in the comments on the last pod talking about, Cavs suck. Cavs are booty. Magic in 6, this and that. And, Cavs bench sucks and play the song. Man, fuck that song. I'm not going to see a bunch of those people in. I can guarantee you a lot of those same Magic fans are going to be silent come game 6 because that is going to be the game where the Cavaliers will end this series. Tune in says JB's hands need to be forced more. I agree at times. Sometimes you just don't know what you're doing out there. I don't even know what to say about JB. Yeah, I have kind of stood by him, but at certain points, I wondered to myself, man, why are you allowing Niang to play as many minutes as you are? What's up with some of these lineups? Why isn't there enough movement in this offense? And one thing that we know is that going smaller can generate more space because you don't necessarily have a double big lineup out there, and you have 4 guys who can shoot. JJ says, I take Magic fans over Knicks fans every day. I would too, man. I have a serious disdain for that fan base, and it's not all of them, man. It's just the ones that chirp up after that last first round series with the Cavs and the Knicks. They just think they own us, and I get it in a sense. Cleveland has yet to show up against the Knicks in any real capacity, but I got to give it to them. At least the Magic, their chirping is a little bit more friendly. Bebo says, I really hope this season from Garland is just a fluke year. I believe it is. You have your jaw broken. You have facial injuries. You have all these other different injuries that he has sustained. You lose 12 to 15 pounds, and let's see how you do. I mean, in my opinion, people have been way too quick to turn on Darius Garland. And, in cases like tonight, when he shows up, people are going to jump back on the bandwagon like they ain't sling no shit at him, but we all know that's not the case. Darius Garland is still very capable of giving you all-star level play. It's just that, this has been an atrocious season for him, and people are not understanding that just last year he still put up an all-star caliber year while including Donovan Mitchell within the confines of the starting lineup and ceding touches to him. It's just been a rough season for him, a lot due to a myriad of things. Eric says, Cavs need to double that one dude who goes off for 39, make everyone else try and beat them. Paolo, it's just Paolo is just in a league of his own, if that's who you're referring to. It's just we knew one of the keys to this series was going to be forcing the drivers. One is Paolo, and then another excellent driver that they feature over there is Franz Wagner, right? We knew that those two, if you could force them to kick the ball out, right, pack the painted area and force the shooters to beat you, that was going to be something that could definitely work. Gavin G says, good game. Sucks as Magic fan, but they showed they can play in Cleveland. I agree, right? I'm going to keep it civil, right? I had a lot of people doing that, in the last pod, and I can respect it, right? And I'm not going to go off the rails here. I'm not going to say fuck you or anything like that. I will say, though, I think that Orlando is in a very familiar territory as Cleveland was last season, right? Nobody expected them to be here. They don't necessarily have shooters in the general sense, like compared to some of these other playoff teams. And I know that they have shot well at home so far in this series, but on the regular season as a whole, they didn't really shoot the ball that well, and they didn't space the floor that well, and they rarely attempted the 3-ball. They relied on paint points as their primary weapon. And I completely lend credence to the idea that Orlando looks very much like last season's Cavaliers. And then one of the things that I think nobody is really talking about is the fact that Cleveland has a lot more pressure on them than Orlando. Orlando's basically playing with house money in this series, right? Nobody expected them to be here. Nobody really expected them to. Well, some people expected them to win this series, but the overwhelming majority picked Cleveland as the favorite in this series. And so that's the way that I look at it. Orlando, Brian Wiley says, Orlando looks much better than last season's Cavs. In this series, in a sense, but not during the course of the regular season. I mean, they're definitely a good team up on the come up, and they have a very deep bench. Their bench actually leads the NBA prior to today's game, if I'm not mistaken, in bench scoring. And little known fact, that's because their starters during the regular season actually scored the league's fewest amount of points. They relied heavily on their bench. Eric says, going to go 7 for sure. Cavs don't play good away. Nice to see Strus and Morris helping tonight. It could definitely go 7. I mean, there is a lot of evidence that would point towards Cleveland not getting the job done in Game 6. But you guys know me; I err on the positive side of things. I do think that they will be able to close things out in Game 6, but we will see. Jola Zagala says Franz is good, but the Wagners are annoying. They're the type of players, especially Mo Wagner, right, The Wagners are guys who you hate to play against, but would love to have on your team, right? they they are they are guys who you hate to play against, but are like you would love to have them on your team. They're good, solid players. Franz is an excellent driver of the basketball. He's a pretty solid shooter, can rebound, can do a lot of different things out there. And then Mo, he was an irritant. Even more so than Franz, but he brings a lot of toughness. Both those guys do. So props to them. David says, y'all lucky. I don't know, man. I don't know. And then he also says, y'all got to get it. Y'all got to get it back at the crib. It's possible. This series could definitely go 7 games. And I wouldn't necessarily be mad at it because this has been a fun series to watch from a physicality standpoint. This has really been playoff basketball. This is what it's all about, right? Low scoring affairs. But I do truly believe the Cavaliers get it done in game 6. We'll see, though. We shall definitely see. Abdul Smith says refs was terrible. You could definitely make a case for it, man. Tony Brothers and company out there. I did not get some of the calls, but I'm not going to complain too much because we did win. Mr. Redpen says, I was at game 3 in Orlando. I'm skeptical for them to close it out after that game. Those fans give us a run for our money for sure. I think that Cleveland, they have what it takes to get the job done. You just have to get more out of your starting group, right? It's not, to me, Darius Garland was a no-show for large portions of this series prior to today. And I think if he's able to replicate this type of performance in game 6, it's over, respectfully. And Donovan Mitchell, he's not at 100% clearly, but what he brings to the table, definitely, I think they'll be able to get the job done. Mack Strus, key point in today's game, knocking down some of the triples that he did, making some of the plays that he did, grabbing some of the rebounds that he did. It was really nice to see him get things going. And it's definitely can have an effect on the road, but we shall definitely see. Gavin G says the misconception about Mo Wagner is he's Draymond type unhinged. He's just loud, annoying, and hyper. LOL. I mean, I guess. Like I said, he's the type of guy you would hate to have to play against, but you would love to have him on your team just because he don't take no shit, right? He definitely loud out there. So I got to respect him for that. They definitely come to play. They're not just all talk. They're doing some stuff on the court. Yeah, Max's shot falling was definitely tough. Definitely something that you want to see moving forward in this series because that's what he was signed for, right? I can appreciate the fact that he's pulling down a ton of rebounds. I can appreciate the fact that he's moving the ball via the DHO or some pick and roll sets with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. But at the end of the day, we signed you to knock down perimeter shots. And so that's what we need him to do. And for me, it felt really good to see him do that because a lot of people were kind of shit on him. Max Strus tonight in 40 minutes gave the Cavs 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. So a pretty well-rounded stat line in addition to some pretty efficient shooting numbers, 6 of 13 from the field, including 4 of 10 from three-point distance. If I'm not mistaken, he led all players in three-point attempts. Now, coming off a game in which Cleveland attempted just 17 total triples, which was, if you hadn't heard my latest breakdown or my latest by the numbers video for game 4, their 17 attempts was actually their lowest total in a playoff game since 2016. It literally had been 8 years since they attempted that few of perimeter shots. So they took 37 attempts tonight and shot 35% from three-point distance, which isn't necessarily great. It's about average. It's about on par with their season average, but it wasn't as bad or nearly as bad as they have shot during the course of this series. It had gotten really bad at one point. And then you contrast that with what the Magic were able to shoot tonight, because we know in game 3 and game 4 at home, the Magic were really starting to get that 3-ball to drop. But tonight they shot just 29% from 3-point distance on 31 attempts. And so it was nice. It was nice to see those shots finally not falling. And then they were turning the ball over a ton too. Cleveland won the turnover battle 10-14. A lot of unforced errors out there. We lost the rebounding battle, and understandably so, with Jarrett Allen missing the game, right? But I'll take the win all day long, all day long. Man, just feels good. It really does. Now, essentially, tonight, Cleveland, or JB Bickerstaff rather, played a 7-man rotation. 7-man rotation, basically. I cannot count Tristan Thompson, although he did see some time in this one, but he only played 9 minutes. And then then Sam Merrill only played 6 tonight. And so JB essentially rolled out a 7-man lineup. You had the starters each going for various amounts of minutes, led by Donovan Mitchell and Max Strus with 40 minutes each. And then you got Evan Mobley and Darius Garland with 39. Isaac Okoro was the starter who played the fewest minutes tonight, 23. And then Marcus Morris, man, again, tip of the cap to Marcus Morris for stepping up big time and taking over for the just dreadful George Niang. 26 big minutes tonight for him. He contributed 12 points, went 4-9 from the field and 2 of 5 from 3-point distance. And he hit some pretty big shots. The triples that he hit, they felt like they came at just the right points in the game. And the defense that he played on Paolo, definitely a step up in regards to Niang. Tune in. Yeah. So Tom K says basically, I don't know if you caught it earlier on, but he said that Niang should hop up here with me and just sit the rest of the series. And I got to say, if the result ends up being like tonight, I can't argue with that. I cannot argue with that. And Niang is my guy. You know, if you're listening, Niang, which I'm sure you're not, you know, don't take any slight to this, but we need you kind of riding the pine if Morris is going to play like this. LeBron James says he is too small, but he could probably guard Suggs for a stint. I mean, all I can say is that Niang not playing was probably a good thing. Well, actually was a good thing. Not just probably. Mr. Redpan says, Mack, you rock, man. Thanks for the stream. Appreciate you, man. I definitely do. And tonight, as Tom K so eloquently points out up here in the chat, so nice to see the Cavs score 100 plus finally. First time during this series that they've been able to crack the 100-point barrier. So it was definitely nice to see that going in a game where Donovan Mitchell didn't have it, right? He showed up down the stretch, but by no means was I ever feeling it at a point like Donovan Mitchell was truly locked in, like we've seen him be so often this season. That said, man, this is a good one. This is a good one. And I think that they will be able to take the show on the road, but we'll have to see. JJ says, weird question, but would you take Niang or Jetty right now? I don't know. Why you got to ask me a question like that? Why you got to ask me a question like that? As of right now, I'd have to say I'd probably take Jetty. You know, if we're talking about this year's version of Jetty, especially, right? And he actually had a pretty decent season in San Antonio this year from a statistical standpoint in the minutes that he got. But I think the difference between those two is that Jetty isn't really like, he can give you minutes at the 4, but he isn't really a 4, right? In the general sense. We saw that experiment fail time and time again for the Cavs. Morris, you know, Marcus Morris and Niang, they actually have true 4 size. And so that's a tough call, in my opinion, just because, not only because of the play, but because of the positional aspect of it too. Jetty is more 3 than 4 at the end of the day. Ollie Grant says Niang been hanging out at Slyman's too long, throwing down corned beef, Sammys, and potato cakes. Why y'all gotta do my guy like this, man? Why y'all gotta do my boy like that? He catches so much flack, so much unnecessary grief for his body. And I get he doesn't have like the NBA, the typical NBA body. Everybody says dad bod out there. But I don't know. People have just been really getting on that man really hard about his body. But he's a pro. He's made it this far. And I mean, I get it. Dr. Claw, LOL Slimans. Yeah, they really going at my boy tonight in regards to that. But I can't argue against the results, right? They won the game. They were able to get the shit done without Niang. And if that's what it costs moving forward, sorry, buddy, you got to sit your ass down. Jay Quest says, hey, if you don't like Slimans, I don't trust you. Well, according to Ollie, Niang loves it, right? Um, that's it. It is what it is, right? And I know I seem very, very chipper for a game that the Cavs won by 1 point, but shit, I'm gonna take it just because it's been doom and gloom city for this fan base. This series, everybody's really just been on edge, myself included. Like, and I try and be a little bit more positive than many other Cavs fans, at least in my estimation. But I can understand some of the reservations and some of the concerns that people had in regards to the Cavaliers because again, they have way more pressure on them than the Orlando Magic did heading into this series. And that's just the facts, right? Orlando is kind of playing with house money, and Cleveland, it's kind of Eastern Conference Finals or bust for them at this point in regards to the whole Donovan Mitchell of it all. So we have to win this series, right? And then whoever comes out of the Boston Miami series, I mean, got to win that. It's likely Boston, obviously, but you have to get past the first round. That is a must. Rob says win is a win. Indeed. I was telling people that earlier. Like, even if the Cavaliers did not have necessarily a great offensive showing, as long as they won the game, I would have been okay with that, especially without Jarrett Allen out there. He was just such a key point and who has been honestly the best player in this series for this team so far. But we'll have to see how much time he misses. And in his absence, we need guys to continue to step up. Don has got to be better than 9 of 23 from the field, and he's definitely got to be better from 3-point distance. He shot just 1 of 7 from 3. Now, we'll add, his triple was a very, very big, like a big time shot, and it came at just the right moment. And he was efficient from the free throw line when he drew contact. He went 9 of 10 from the free throw line tonight, but you got to be better than 9 of 23. I will go ahead, though, and give Jaylen Suggs his due. That man, if you all were not familiar with Jaylen Suggs' defensive abilities out there, his screen navigation, his ability to stay locked in and chase guys around, especially number one options at that, right? His ability to go out there and impact the game on the defensive end, he's got my respects, right? I've not I gotta admit, I didn't watch a ton of tape on him over the years, but coming into this series, I watched a ton of tape on him. And one thing that always stood out to me was just the way that he was able to chase guys around screens, right? And number one options out there. I covered that in my breakdown, but I have been mightily impressed with his ability to kind of take Donovan Mitchell out of his element, right? He was definitely he's definitely been a pain in our ass in this series, and I know Donovan would probably be the first person to tell you that. Is a huge reason why Donovan doesn't look like himself out there. And we know that he's not necessarily 100%, but I'm not going to keep using that excuse. There was some really good defense being played on him, and they are making every single possession for him, whether he's driving inside or whether he's out on the perimeter. There is somebody in his face on damn near every single possession. So I got to give Jaylen Suggs his due. He's been phenomenal. He is definitely a difference maker in this series, and I put him in there as an X factor. And one of the matchups that I wanted to see was Donovan Mitchell versus Jaylen Suggs heading into this series. And so far, I gotta admit, I've kind of walked away with the impression that Jaylen has kind of won the minutes at certain points. Definitely felt like he's won those minutes. Donovan might put up the points, but he is working tremendously. He is having to put a lot of effort and putting up a lot of field goal attempts just to get to where he's at. So I got to give my props to I got to give props to Jaylen Suggs. He's doing the job out there. And for those of you who are unaware, Jaylen finished with 13 points, 5 boards, and was just 5 of 14, including 0 of 5 from 3-point distance tonight. Yet, but was still, if I'm not mistaken, he had the highest plus minus of any starter out there as a +6. Tony Morera, sorry if I mispronounce it, man, says Morris was a pain tonight. Definitely was, man. He stepped up I was going to say absence of Niang, but no, he stepped up in place of Niang because Niang needed to be sat down. Crofty says, if Cavs win this series and take Boston in 260, you think JB keeps his job? No. I honestly believe anything short of an Eastern Conference Finals berth probably spells the end of the JB Bickerstaff era. Um, I that's just the way I feel. That could not be the case, right? But if I had to bet, if I was a betting man, which I am, I won some money tonight. Thank you, Cavs. But if I had to put money on it, I would say that not even pushing the Boston Celtics to 6 games would constitute JB keeping his job. I honestly believe with the way that Donovan has sounded and some of the things that he says, I think JB's gone with anything less than Eastern Conference Finals berth, especially with how things have played out down the stretch. It's just the reality of the situation, in my opinion. And I think that Don is going to have such a huge say in that whole process, right? Because we don't even know what's going on with him just yet. Dr. Gall says at least Okoro got 1-3 off. Yeah, man, it's just from an offensive standpoint, Okoro hasn't been heavily involved. I mean, tonight 8 points, 2 of 10 from the field. Not a efficient night by any means for him, but it is what it is, right? You needed him out there for his defensive capabilities. Tom K says, "Does Mobley block count as a chase down?" I would give it the chase down. I feel like I need to play it again. I think I might just do that. Here we go.
Reason why he was the 3rd pick in the 2021 draft this year. The ability to move his feet laterally and then recover and block. And I tell you what, he bailed out the Cavs. I thought Donovan Mitchell went too soon.
I don't know. I don't know if I would call that a chase down, but it was definitely, in my opinion, the game sealer for Cleveland. That was the one that got the job done. JJ says, who's going to replace JB though if that happens? I don't know, man. It in my opinion, they need to get a well-established option. I don't want to see them bring some fresh face up. I want to see somebody who has coaching experience at a high level, right? Rob Cunningham says, good riddance, JB. I'm not there yet, man. I continue to say this. Although I believe the Eastern Conference Finals or bust thing is a real thing, right? And I'm not against that. If JB does not get this team to at least the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it's done. I have no reservations about that. I have no issue with that. But I still want to see the man succeed. If he's able to do that, I'd be happy to keep him as coach. But he has to prove that he can get us there. And some of that is going to have to be the players stepping up. But at certain points, JB has to be better as well. We'll see. We'll see. Mr. Redpan says Okoro and Vert going to Vert are both night and day from last year, though. Yeah, I mean, in some instances, I suppose LeVert, we kind of knew that his minutes would probably be curtailed, considering he hasn't necessarily fared well in this series either. Just 3 points in the 19 minutes that he had tonight, but we'll see. Old Town says, do you think you guys would run with Ja next game or stay with the lineup you went with tonight? I think that because Jarrett Allen has been such a big piece this series, like especially in the 2 wins, I think that they would elect to put Jarrett Allen back out there. You're definitely going with the original starting 5. But what I think the major change here isn't the starting lineup. I think it's the Morris, right? The Morris Niang swap. I think if you're going to go out there with the mindset that you're going to start the original starting 5, you have to play Morris in place of Niang because Morris is giving you more production. From a shot making standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, from a toughness standpoint, I think that was the right switch. That was the one that I've truly paid attention to. But in my eyes, that's probably what JB's going to roll with. And he rolled basically a 7-man rotation out there. Although Tristan played 9 minutes and Sam Merrill made an appearance with 6 minutes, it essentially was 7 deep tonight, with Morris getting 26 minutes and Karis LeVert getting 19. So I think that Jarrett Allen, you don't go away from him. He has been your most consistent player this year. He's borderline all-star this year. He probably should have been named there. He may get some all defensive love. Definitely felt like he should, but I think you definitely have to go with Jarrett Allen again as your 5 and move Evan Mobley back over to the 4. O-Town says as well, Morris was night and day difference. Absolutely. It was an X factor tonight. And leading into this series, my breakdown, as I'll continue to suggest, because people are not letting me live this whole Niang thing down. I continue to point out, look, I said verbatim in that breakdown, if Niang is struggling, JB has to have the willingness to play Morris. He has to utilize his bench. I included Sam Merrill in that same wording as well. But I think the problem prior to JB's hand being forced, in essence, was that he was just unwilling to do that. And I think part of that is just him wanting to give Niang the benefit of the doubt and riding with the guy that he's rode with all season. And maybe feeling like Niang had earned that spot, especially being here all season, as opposed to Morris coming in late season. But at a certain level, in a certain point, once a guy is struggling, you have to try something different. And so I think that that was the biggest thing that I was looking forward to this game, knowing that Jarrett Allen wouldn't be out there, that would, in a sense, free up minutes for Morris. I just wasn't sure whether or not Niang would actually touch the floor. And since he didn't, that yielded some good results. So it makes me feel good. Crofty says, if Ja is back next game, just JB run 8 deep with Okoro Morris. Absolutely. You have to, right? Vert was not necessarily great in his minutes tonight. Okoro, he was really inefficient tonight, but he did play a decent level of defense, as we know that he is very, very capable of. And then Morris was the biggest X factor off that bench tonight. And so I think you have to go 8 deep. And I think that's the way that JB needs to run. We know he's not going to go 9. We can wipe that notion out of our heads. So if you had to go with an 8-man rotation, it's going to be Darius, Donovan, Max, Evan, Jarrett, and the names you mentioned down here, Levert, Okoro, and Morris. Tune in says, it's the playoffs. You got to switch it up and make adjustments, and glad he did. He had no choice, right? He had no choice. Addition by subtraction, I guess. Right? Tony Moreira says, great fault game tonight, but Ja makes y'all better. I think so too, man. I'm a huge believer in Jarrett Allen. People talk so much shit about Jarrett Allen after that Knicks collapse, and a lot of it was crustified. Jesus, I've been up too late. A lot of it was justifiable, right? And I get it. It was definitely justifiable criticism after he basically got bitched by Mitchell Robinson. I have no problem saying that. But after seeing that occur and then just the turnaround this year, he has looked like the most consistent, most locked in Cavalier that we have had all year long. And that includes Donovan Mitchell, right? So I'm a huge believer in Jarrett Allen. I think you got to continue to roll with him. And I think that he's proven a lot this season. So I could not be happier for him. Gabe Maldonado says, Magic fan here. Finally an exciting game. Wish we could have that Paolo 3 back, but it is what it is. Great game. I think you guys laid down on Friday since you don't have to win. I hope not, man. But I could easily, with the way that the Cavaliers have played on the road, I could see this series going 7. And as a fan of pure hoops, right, I wouldn't be mad at it. But obviously, I want the Cavaliers to finish this as early as possible. But just as a fan of basketball, this has been a good series from a physicality standpoint. This has really have felt like an old school series. First time the Cavaliers have cracked 100 points. And a lot of that is on JB, but some of it is plainly just on guys missing shots. And I think that that is a misconstrued thing. Everybody's blaming JB for a lot of these things, but at the end of the day, you can't help it if your guys are just not knocking down shots. Tony also says it's a great series, both young, hungry teams. Yeah, I think the difference between the two for me is that one clearly has more expectations on them than the other. And we know which one that is. And so I'm not trying to say that I'm not trying to slight Orlando in any sense. I'm just literally saying what I think what everybody feels, that Cleveland has more expectations on them. 420 Meatwad, what a name, says JB won't utilize him right and unfairly bench him often. Don't even bother. I guess JB will be gone though. I hope we get my Budenholzer. Don't be so sure, man. I know a lot of people are writing JB off, but again, if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, JB is probably keeping his job. But we'll see. There's probably, if I had to gamble right now, I would say it doesn't happen, but I am going to continue to hope that it does. Dizzy Timsky says, I mean, Orlando got close this time. Cavs needs to show they're ready away from home. And I believe Magic feel like they can win in Cleveland after this game tonight. They played well. Both teams really came to play tonight, especially with Jarrett Allen not being out there and you not having that interior defender and the anchor of your defense out there. I thought that the Cavaliers stepped up. I felt that this was good. And I also felt like Orlando, despite a lack of shot making, again, just hitting 29% of their threes tonight, I felt like they also played a very physical, very good game on both sides of the ball. You will see. Old Town says JB would 100% end up Magic staff if you guys let him go. Yes, Jamal Mosley, the connection that he has with him, definitely something that I could probably see. And I know a lot of people are down on JB. And you see it right here. JJ says, please take him. Literally, he's saying, please take him as we're talking about this. But I'm not as low on the guy as other people are, but I understand that if he does not get this team to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's over. And I'm okay with that. It will be justified. That said, you guys have listened to me rant and rave long enough. And just really feel good about this game. Thank you to you Magic fans who've come in and been nice. It's always cool to talk hoops and not go back and forth with fans of other teams because it can really get into a slugfest when you're talking to teams from other fan bases. That said, I'm just going to go ahead and plug this as I always do every single episode now. If you like to support your boy, you know how you can. Become a subscriber or member rather on Patreon. Consider doing that. Every little bit helps. The link to that is in the description if you feel so inclined to do so. If you don't want to, that's okay. You know, I'm going to produce the content either way. But just know that every little bit definitely is appreciated and it helps. Also, if you'd like to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you an invite. That said, we are on to game 6. Hopefully the Cavs can close things out. But if they don't, you know, Cavs have everything they need to get this done in 7. Both teams really, really have impressed me this series. I'll just leave it at that. That said, go Cavs. Have a good night.